Federal government says it never approved a 30,000 naira new minimum wage. Labour threatens new nationwide strike. Senate makes an about-face on INEC election budget. Some ministries face cuts to pay for it. On the international scene, U.S. President Donald Trump looking for ways to scuttle the Mueller probe, sacks his Attorney General. And in sport, replacement named for injured member of Super Eagles squad for Bafana clash.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The denial by the federal government on Wednesday that it approved a 30,000 naira new minimum wage seemed to have sent a jolt to workers who had been celebrating earlier when an agreement was reported. It was on the strength of what Labour believed to have been an agreement that a scheduled nationwide strike was suspended. A whole lot of mess seems to be brewing, and ANN's Lucy Adeyemi is standing by to help us wade through the dirty details. Lucy.
Well, yes, Olajumoke, a mess indeed. This new twist to the story has jolted workers and has revived threats of indefinite strikes. It appears the federal government and labor unions' tripartite committee on wages were on different pages during their meeting. Federal government says what came out of the meeting was a recommendation which it says would have to be studied and a decision announced later. Labour said no, it was a firm agreement on 30,000 naira new minimum wage. Labour says it was on the strength of that agreement it called off the scheduled nationwide strike that would have paralyzed the country. Many media outlets had reported on Wednesday that President Buhari had approved the figure of 30,000 naira as new minimum wage. But the minister says that had not happened. He said the president would only take a decision after considering the report. On many instances, the minister referred to the document as a recommendation, not an agreement. Labour says, quote, it's 30,000 naira or strike. Olajumoke.
Thank you, Lucy. Hope they resolve this soon. Presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, says the report from the Tripartite Committee on Wages is an agreement and would want President Buhari to keep faith with the Nigerian worker and honor that agreement. Atiku's presidential campaign organization said this in a statement in Abuja on Wednesday in reaction to the Buhari administration's denial that it approved the committee's 30,000 naira figure. It also said not approving or paying the new minimum wage would amount to lack of leadership at the very top. It said that could put Nigeria's economy in peril. Meanwhile, Atiku Abubakar's support group in Anambra State has called for President Buhari's disqualification from the 2019 polls for what it says are contradictions in his secondary school certificate. The group says the president's statement contravenes a section of the Nigerian Criminal Code. It says a false claim is equivalent to a criminal act of lying under oath. Punishment for perjury under that code is 14 years in prison. While it's a case of you say it now, you don't, as the Senate has made an about-face on its early approval of the president's requested budget for next year's election. The Senate reversed itself from an earlier decision, now says half of the 242 billion naira for INEC and security agencies to conduct next year's election would now be taken from the 2018 budget of ministries, departments and agencies. It says half of the budget, which is 121 billion naira, will now be wired from the $500 billion naira special intervention program under the service-wide vote. Affected ministries are water resources, agriculture and rural development, education, budget and national planning, health, science and technology, and industry, trade and investment. The president was not spared either. 1.2 billion naira shaved from its 59 billion naira budget. Now to other news. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission says about electricity distribution company has about 1 million customers without meters. During the inauguration of the Customer Complaint Forum office in Ilorin on Wednesday, NERC's Commissioner for Consumer Affairs, Dr. Moses Arigo, says the metering gap in Ibadan Disco represents a 60% deficit in metering. He says the Bad Electricity distribution company has now begun the meter procurement process. We decided to report this story because it is a recurrent problem across the country. Many homes in Lagos, Enugu, Port Harcourt, Benin, Kaduna, Kano, Sokoto, Uyo, Warri, Aba, and many more have no meters. Only estimated bills are provided monthly. This is often a source of acrimony between households and their discos. Even when no electricity is supplied for weeks in some places, the bill amounts do not change. Arigo says customers must first try to resolve such issues or problems with the disco. If you have done so and are not satisfied with the resolution, you can escalate your case to NERC. IBEDC's Chief Executive Officer John Donchi has appealed to customers to collaborate with his company so service can be improved and enhanced. We reported on Wednesday the story of an assassination attempt at Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu. One would have thought the matter would be taken up without any frills. Now the Deputy Senate President is threatening to release video clips of the attempted assassination because the police apparently said it was a mere case of burglary. The Senate seems to have taken up the matter by asking the police to carry out a thorough investigation of the alleged incident, threatening the lives of the Deputy Senate President and his family. The Senate says the police conclusion was hasty. Ekweremadu said the police is fond of having quick incident reports in cases that do not involve a presidential oversight. He said he was shocked to wake up and hear the police call the incident a mere case of burglary. He said he may now be forced to release the video footage to the media, to Nigerians and to international communities so they can watch and decide if that were a mere case of burglary. The House of Representatives has also decided on Wednesday to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the case. The federal government has registered its opposition to the bail applications filed by two businessmen who were arraigned on Wednesday on charges of alleged illegal importation of arms. Federal government prosecutor Julius Ajakaye said the offense for which the men were being charged were grave and that it bordered on national security. The defendants were accused of conspiring with Great James Oil and Gas Limited and the maker Ume Festus, aka Amankwa, to import rifles in Nigeria November last year. Moses and his alleged accomplices were accused of forging shipping company names and a bill of lading in July last year with intent that customs officers were treated as genuine by customs officers. They were also alleged to have forged a bill of lading to read 230 packages of Washington Basin and WC as the container's contents instead of rifles. The judge will rule on the bail application later this month. 6 persons expected to have abducted and killed a Kaduna first-class traditional ruler, Agam Adara, Dr. Maiwada Galadima, have been arrested. Department of State security officials paraded the suspect who accused of seizing and later killing the traditional ruler last month. Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai has demanded swift conclusion of investigation and prosecution of the suspect. Officials say the suspects had made confessional statements about their involvement in the crime during the preliminary investigation. Coming up, African stories. France and Comoros agreed to end migration row. And later, U.S. President Donald Trump looking for ways to scuttle the Mueller probe, sacks his Attorney General.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In news across Africa, France and Comoros have agreed on Wednesday to resolve immigration and territorial dispute. Comoros will reverse a decision earlier made to refuse to accept Comoros citizens turned away from the island of Mayotte, which is officially part of France. France says it will rescind a suspension of visas for Comorans faced with a wave of migrants this year, many of them pregnant women hoping to give birth in Mayotte so their children would have French citizenship. France began this year to deport would-be immigrants to Comoros. Both countries' foreign ministries said in a joint statement further agreed steps will be set out in a document to be signed later this month. The Libyan Coast Guard has picked up 315 migrants in the Mediterranean Sea on Wednesday who were trying to reach Europe in 3 inflatable boats. The migrants from different sub-Saharan and Arab countries have been moved to detention centers. The Libyan Coast Guard says a patrol rescued another 100 persons off the town of Zawiya and a separate group of 199 off Khoms. Libya's western coast is the main departure point for migrants hoping for new lives in Europe, though the number of crossings has dropped sharply since May last year. Some of the 78 school children adopted in Cameroon have been reunited with their parents in the northwestern town of Bamenda. One of the students said they had been held by the Anglophone separatist rebels. Although there has been some confusion over who had kidnapped them, the Cameroonian government has blamed the separatist rebels, who in turn said the government has stage-managed them to sully their name. Some are yet to be reunited with their parents because they are undergoing medical care. A UN envoy says thousands of child soldiers dragged into South Sudan's civil war are unlikely to be freed soon because aid agencies lack the funds to look after them. The government signed a peace deal with rebel factions in September to end a civil war that has killed at least 50,000 people. UN envoy for children in armed conflict, Virginia Gamba, said there are many more children forced into the conflict that are still stuck in military camps in the bush. She said that children have remained at extremely high risk of abuse because of lack of resources to reintegrate them. The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa says it is opposed to the government selling a stake in state-run arms firm Daniel. It is also against attempts to force through salary cuts of around 20%. Daniel makes weapons, missiles, and armored vehicles for the South African armed forces and clients in Africa. It is reported to be battling to stay afloat after a $121 million loss. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa had said last week that Daniel was ripe for joint venture partnerships after Saudi Arabia offered to take a stake in the weapons manufacturer. Earlier this week, Solidarity rejected a proposal to cut Daniel at the end of November, but said selling an equity stake was the only way to save the company. Uganda started vaccinating health workers against Ebola in a border district close to an infected area in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The vaccinations began on Wednesday and are part of a wider Ebola prevention plan. Thousands of Congolese cross into Uganda weekly, and officials fear that could put the country at high risk. In recent months, Ebola cases have been confirmed near the heavily traveled border between Uganda and DR Congo. An outbreak in Beni in the northeastern part of DRC has killed 189 persons. A professor of health sciences at Uganda's Makerere University, Anthony Boye, said the vaccinations are crucial to stemming transmission in a highly endemic belt for hemorrhagic fevers. Sudan's foreign ministry says Khartoum and Washington have agreed to launch the second phase of strategic talks aimed at removing Sudan from the U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism. The U.S. lifted a 20-year oil trade sanctions on Sudan a year ago, but economists say foreign investors and banks are put off by Washington's designation of Sudan as a state sponsor of terrorism alongside Iran, North Korea, and Syria. The UN Security Council is weighing a plan that would see UN peacekeepers in the Central African Republic offer support to newly trained national troops as they are deployed across the country. The European Union has trained more than 3,000 men and women to serve in the Central African Armed Forces, while Russia and France, with UN approval, have provided them with weapons and other military equipment. A French drafted resolution would authorize the MINUSCA mission to provide limited logistical support for the troops. MINUSCA is the UN's fourth largest mission after the Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan and Mali. The Council will vote on the draft resolution next week. While we return, international stories. U.S. President Donald Trump looking for ways to scuttle the Mueller probe, sacks his Attorney General. And later sports, Onyekuru replaces injured Igalo in Super Eagles squad for Bafana clash.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left, yes. You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on, so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. On the international scene, U.S. President Donald Trump has made a move on Wednesday many analysts and lawmakers say is dangerous and could lead to obstruction of justice charge against him down the road. The president fired his top law official, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, whom he had criticized for months, mainly for his refusal to oversee the investigation into alleged Trump campaign's collusion with Russians to meddle into the 2016 presidential elections in Trump's favor. Sessions' chief of staff, Matthew Whitaker, who had criticized the inquiry, will take over temporarily. The president has been looking for ways to quash Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into alleged relationship between the Trump campaign and Russia. Mueller's wide-ranging probe has resulted in a series of criminal charges and indictments of several Trump's associates. In a resignation letter to the president, Sessions, a former Alabama senator who was an early Trump supporter, made it clear it wasn't his decision to resign. Meanwhile, the White House has suspended the press credentials of CNN reporter Jim Acosta on Wednesday after President Trump took issue with questions Acosta asked at a news conference. The move to punish Acosta by removing his access to the White House is believed to be unprecedented. The Trump administration barred another CNN reporter from attending an open media event in July, but did not remove the credential known as Hot Pass. That is what enables journalists to enter the White House grounds. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders cited Acosta's brief confrontation with a White House press aide during Trump's media news conference as the reason for suspending his press pass until further notice.
I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President.
That's enough. CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person.
At least 14 Afghan army soldiers were killed in Taka province early Thursday morning in latest attack by Taliban armed group, which has killed or wounded dozens of security forces this week. Also on Thursday, the Taliban attacked and overran 2 checkpoints in Ghazna's Jagori district, killing several local police forces as fighting continued. 6 soldiers are missing and 16 others wounded in the attack on a military base in Kwajagar district in neighboring Kunduz province. At least 7 army soldiers were killed and several others were reportedly wounded on Wednesday. 12 persons have been killed in a restaurant shooting in Thousand Oaks, California on Wednesday evening. Police officials were called to the scene around 11:20 at night local time with reports of people injured at the Borderline Bar and Grill in the city of Thousand Oaks, a suburb of Los Angeles. Police confirmed that among the dead was Deputy Sheriff Ron Hulix, a 29-year-old veteran of the agency who was looking to retire next year. Authorities say the incident is not linked to terrorism. They also confirmed the unidentified shooter is dead. China and the United States are locked in a trade war, but you wouldn't know by looking at the level of Chinese exports, which leaped almost 16% in October compared with the same month a year earlier. That was significantly higher than analysts had forecast and even stronger than last month's growth. The performance is surprising because October was the first full month during which new U.S. tariffs went into effect on $200 billion of Chinese goods. Economists and Chinese government officials said recently they expected export growth to slow into the final months of the year. China's economy is growing at a slower pace since the financial crisis. After Australia launched a multi-billion-dollar fund to counter China's rising influence in the region, China's top diplomats are saying Beijing and Canberra should cooperate in the South Pacific and not be strategic rivals, standing alongside Australian Foreign Minister Maurice Payne. Chinese State Councillor Kuan Yin made the conciliatory remarks after a meeting in Beijing, widely viewed as a step toward resetting bilateral ties after a lengthy diplomatic chill. Wang said he had agreed with Payne that the 2 countries could combine their respective strengths and embark on trilateral cooperation with Pacific Island countries. Payne said the discussions were valuable, full and candid. Up next, sports. Onyekuru replaces injured Igalo in Super Eagles squad for Bafana clash. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Super Awoof. MTN gives 2,000% bonus for reactivating your MTN SIM.
That's right. If you haven't used your MTN SIM for 45 days or more, recharge now and get 2,000% bonus. That's right, 2,000% bonus for your first recharge of every month.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In the world of Nigerian sport, Onyekuru has been handed a late call-up as replacement for the injured Odion Ogalo for Nigeria's 2019 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying fixture against South Africa's Bafana Bafana. The encounter is billed for the FNB Stadium in Johannesburg next week. The three-time African champions will also face the Cranes of Uganda in a friendly encounter at the Stephen Keshi Stadium, Asaba, later this month. Igalo sustained a hamstring injury in his club's Chinese Super League clash on Wednesday. Hazards of the game. Super Falcons head coach Thomas Dennerby has released a list of 21 players who will fly Nigeria's flag at 11th Women's Africa Cup of Nations finals in Ghana. The list comprised 3 goalkeepers, 7 defenders, 4 midfielders and 7 strikers. The 8-time champions are presently at Seoul, Benin, Abidjan for an 8-day final camping program. They will depart for Ghana on Wednesday, where they will take on South Africa later this month before matches against Zambia and Kenya. That is the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, knnafrica.net. Conversations continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CNN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.